Most of us choose to live our lives as foxes. We choose the cautious path. We think about all the risks and problems. We look before we leap. Tonight is a night when we celebrate hedgehogs. If you look at T. Denny Sanford's philanthropy, you'll see it's not only marked by an extraordinary scale of giving, but it's also marked by an extraordinary ambition. The goal is not just to make incremental change, the goal is to make transformational change. Or Kelby Krabenhoff, CEO of Sanford Health, who's known to tell his co-workers, we have to build a plane even as we are flying it. Think about that for a second. We have to build a plane even as we are flying it. That's what a hedgehog sounds like. The hedgehogs we're really celebrating tonight, of course, are a group of scientists, extraordinary scientists, who've done extraordinary things over the last several decades. And I want to read to you short excerpts of some things that they have said. Dr. Gene Bennett, who was a co-nominee with Dr. Katherine, said, "We would not take no for an answer. We always found a way to navigate around the hurdles. That doesn't mean we ignored the hurdles. We addressed them head on." Dr. Katherine talks about some of her own doubts as she went forward, and she says she asked herself, what if I don't go forward and a product doesn't make it across the finish line? How will I feel? I spent decades of my life working in this space, but then at the final step, I didn't have the courage. I couldn't live with that. I decided, whatever it takes, I'm going to go. Dr. Brian Kaspar says, doing nothing is the easiest. Doing nothing is the safest. I'm proud of the boldness and the risk-taking. I think that's how things change. And Dr. Jim Wilson, once there's a setback, the way I operate is that I don't look back. All I know is that we need to move forward fast. There's a common theme in all of these remarks, in all of these comments. True innovation is very difficult. And it's difficult because it's also lonely. You're wandering in a dark room with your hands outstretched, trying to find the light switches. And of course, once you find the light switch and the room is illuminated, everything looks obvious. Revolutions always seem impossible until they happen. And once they occur, they invariably seem inevitable. There's a Buddhist monk from Vietnam who has a wonderful phrase that I love. It's very succinct. He says, no mud, no lotus. No mud, no lotus. And of course what he's saying is that the lotus has to fight its way through the muck and the mire and the mud in order to bloom. But of course that's a metaphor for life itself. That all of us have to go through setbacks and obstacles in order to get to success. All of the scientists who are our nominees tonight have been through their share of muck and mire and mud. And of course, here they are on the platform before me right now, blooming like beautiful lotuses. I want to say one last word before we get the main proceedings underway. The winner of the award tonight is going to get a lot of attention, going to get $1 million, a lot of praise, a lot of recognition. But I think we are inspired tonight not just by who wins the award, but by all our nominees. I was speaking with Xiaodong Lin Sigler. She's a researcher at Columbia Teachers College some months ago. And she told me she's interested in getting young people inspired to work on science, young people interested in science. And she discovered something very interesting in her research. She finds that when she tells people about famous scientists who accomplished great things, it's often not inspirational, but it's actually intimidating. If you tell somebody who's in 6th grade that Albert Einstein was the greatest mind that ever lived, that we're still trying to understand his ideas 100 years after he came up with them, if you're struggling with 6th grade math, you say, clearly I'm no Albert Einstein. On the other hand, if you tell people Albert Einstein once was so stuck with a math problem, and this is true, he actually had to turn to a friend for help, now you can relate to it. You can say, yeah, that sounds like me. I need to turn to friends for help for my math. And so even as we are inspired, I think, by the winner of tonight's award, I think we're also going to be inspired by the people who don't win. Because if there's one thing that's true about hedgehogs, it's that they know how to deal with setbacks. They know how to deal with disappointments. The thing that's really magical about hedgehogs is not that they win, it's that no matter how many times they fall down, they always get up. Hedgehogs can only see in one direction, forward. Throughout this night, we're going to bring you short documentaries about each Sanford Lorraine Cross Award nominee. They're going to share their journey, tell us how they've pushed an innovation across the finish line. These innovations are going to change the lives of our children, our parents, maybe even us. Our first Sanford Lorraine Cross Award nominees are Dr. Gene Bennett and Dr. Katherine. When all of us look around, we end up taking the gift of sight for granted. Dr. Bennett and Dr. High know how precious sight is because they have worked for over a decade to restore sight in patients with congenital retinal dystrophy. In 2017, their gene therapy treatment became the first to be FDA approved, giving sight to dozens and opening the door to future breakthroughs. Please meet the co-nominees, Dr. Gene Bennett and Dr. Katherine.
Things that we take for granted, leaves falling, snowflakes falling, a reflection of sunlight on a pond. Everything was new to her from a visual perspective, and it was just miraculous seeing this unfold. Changes in genes, mutations in genes can cause disease. The idea is to be able to harness what we know about the genes and the defects in the genes which cause blindness to try to intervene. One of our collaborators in the veterinary school had the wisdom long ago to start to study puppies and dogs who were blind. And lo and behold, the Swedish Briards had the same exact mutation, same gene mutation as found in the humans. 99.9% of the time, we saw this remarkable reversal of the blindness. So we were very excited to test this in humans. I knew that we had amazing data and we could potentially progress to a human clinical trial if we had the appropriate funding, but I couldn't find anybody who was willing to fund it. Then one day, I can remember the exact day, Dr. Katherine High knocked on my office door, walked in and sat down and said, "Gene, how would you like to run a clinical trial?" And I was just flabbergasted.
I had known Dr. High for many, many years. I thought she did great work.
So Dr. High had spoken to Dr. Altschuler, and he told her that he was going to fund a center and also to run 2 different clinical trials.
When I look back on it, it is always to me one of the most extraordinary decisions that after thinking about it for a week or so, he actually agreed to do that.
That led to Dr. High and Dr. Bennett coming together. It led to CHOP developing the viral vector. You know, as they say, it was kind of a marriage made in heaven. And that became the basis of the first gene therapy trial.
I downloaded the numbers, brought them home, spread out my computer and my tables on our dining room table, and plotted it out. And it was phenomenal. It was so dramatic. I screamed for my husband who was trying to take a nap, and we were just so energized. I ended up analyzing all the data that night. The real bonus was knowing and hearing from these individuals that they could see better, that they could move around more independently, go to school, see their children's faces.
Growing up with LCA was hard, mostly because I wanted to do everything else that all the other kids were doing, but I couldn't. I always use music as something to cope with that. fast forward a few weeks, we go home and I see the moon for the first time at a performance, which was absolutely amazing.
Patients are really the reason that we do this work. They are the North Star of a lot of what we do. Their life is limited in a way, but they have talents that they can use to help solve problems in the world. But they need a chance. I knew that where the field was at that point, we were really close, and if we did everything right, we would actually be able to cross the finish line with a licensed product for a genetic disease. But the further our work went at the university, the more it became clear to me that to pull together all of the resources we were going to need, we would need access to the public markets. We were going to need a company.
I think in terms of true innovation, in terms of impact, and then providing a platform for future development of new drugs, there's nothing even close to this. This is foundational. In some ways, Spark now has this incredible legacy as, you know, the father, mother of gene therapy.
We understand that not one person alone can do everything, that it requires a huge team effort.
They were really able to work together to do something special. And I think that's a major reason that it worked out. And they were both great scientists, and they had this mutual respect.
The most important thing is to do a good job on today's problems. Because if you do that, there will be a tomorrow.
They really saved me. And I'm so grateful for that. They changed my life.
This was the first gene therapy for a genetic disease approved at the FDA. And we faced many hurdles along the way. But then it's great to have a partner, because on the days when you feel, you know what, I just don't think I can keep going on this, the other person says, no, we're closer than you think.
We had such trust in each other's scientific prowess and our standards. It was just an obvious collaboration.
Dr. Bennett and Dr. High to stand to be recognized.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President and CEO of Sanford Health, Kelby Krabenhoft.
You work a long time to get to a place like this. This is why you get into this business. This is why. I don't know whether I want to go party with those two gals or listen to their research stuff. They're fun. They're great. Tonight is a special night for this organization, for everyone in this room, and I think the world too. But I wouldn't get anywhere unless people who put these things on get recognized. Kelsey, stand up. Katie and Ashley, come on. These three ladies put this on, and then about 100 people on all around him made it happen. Come in here, just say hi. Come on, get in the light. Get in the light. It's beautiful. Get out here. And the Sanford family means something. Sorry, Kels. Kels is going to have a baby, and that means one more Sanford employee coming up. Thank you all. Thanks. So, to our esteemed finalists, I know you think that what this award and this honor is doing for you is a big deal, and I appreciate that. I really want you to know that what you're doing for us and what you've accomplished is a dream come true for this organization, an organization that's built out on the prairie where there's more buffalo and cattle than people, and it just means forever what your accomplishments mean to humankind, but this company has moved forward by your efforts. I also want to recognize a couple folks real quick. Newt Gingrich is here tonight, a personal friend and somebody whose advice to me has been priceless. Newt. Monsignor Trafny, who gave us the opening prayer this evening, has become more than a spiritual leader. He's become an advisor and a person who's moved this company forward by his mere efforts as well. Monsignor. And Max Gomez, sitting right near me tonight. Thank you so much for what you bring, your personality, your charisma, and your character. Thanks for being with us again tonight. And then very quickly, would every member of the Board of Trustees of Sanford Health and my team, my management team, would you just stand up real quick and let these people know that you have to suffer working with me? Would you do that? Please, all these great people. We did it. Good job. So, with that, a new member of the organization that actually gives the Sanford Health footprint, not just the Dakota Territories, but the nation, 25 states, 225 or 30 long-term care facilities, a $1 billion company with 20,000 employees, now joining with Sanford, the Good Samaritan Society, the Evangelical Good Samaritan Society, and Dave Horzowski and his wife are here this evening. Would you please stand, Dave? Thank you. That's so neat, because now there's 50,000 people that are employed by Sanford, and then their families make that, what, 75 or 80,000 people that depend on. And Joanne Kunkel, precious CFO, told me that we're nearing $16 million a day that we have to meet somehow. I don't know. Maybe we'll jump off the roof tonight when we think that over. But it's a daunting task, but you couldn't do it unless you called this place family, and an organization that has each other's backs and makes it all work. So I want to welcome everyone, an international guest attendance tonight. You all don't know about Sanford. You shouldn't. You should know about Denny Sanford, the most important philanthropist in history in healthcare. But Sanford Health is a quiet company because we wait for moments of substance. That's how our mothers raised us before we announce anything. So welcome to our home. Welcome to our patron, Mr. Sanford. The first order of business, though, is to make sure that I recognize a friend and someone who brings me to tears regularly. The chairman's chairman, Andy North. Andy's sitting real close to me here tonight with his wife, Susan. And I think Cindy Rarick, as the incoming chairman, has an impossible task to fill his shoes. I don't know how you're going to do it. But as our first chairman, he was a champion. Most people know because he hits a little white ball really well. He became a U.S. Open champion twice. He became a matchmaker for me with all the great relationships from Jack Nicklaus, Cindy Rarick, a cast of thousands that he's introduced me to. But tonight, he also demonstrated that he is a leader. And I don't know where he goes from here, but you go from champion to matchmaker to leader. It was his final comments as chairman of the board that after 3 ballots moved us from a really impossible task on split decision 3 times to an 8-1 vote for the ultimate winner of tonight's award. Thank you, Andy North. Thank you. So, I don't know, guys. I think this area of the great upper Midwest and the Dakotas is a special place. The people that work for and with me know that I live in a fantasy. Movies mean a lot to me. I run it like The Godfather, I suppose. But it's the frontier here. It's quiet. It's cold. It's lonely. Winter is always coming in the Dakotas. It requires courage, perseverance, a good shovel. But it's a place of opportunity too. And just like we know winter's always coming, we know spring is always coming too. So history's on our side. In the 1890s, hospitals and doctors on the frontier built what we now get to call home and try to save lives and make a difference in people's lives. Pioneers anchored our culture and their behavior, so we are beholden to that, and we never forget where we came from. And so tonight, all of you that come from different places, welcome to that culture. Welcome to our home. Welcome to that beholding of people that made this country and made this region what it is. More efficiently than anything else tonight, I want to say, why are we doing this? We come here, why? And for what reason? Great researchers, they could be celebrated, Nobel and Lasker, Robert Koch, there's lots of places they can go and be honored. Why us? Simply put, we're stubborn here. We want to make a difference. And once we make a difference and we finish, then we want to move on. It's a culture that absolutely delivers on an idea that says, you make a promise here, that is a promise kept. So, there's a man in the audience that I got to talk about and talk to, and it's Mr. Sanford, because he's precious to me and he's precious to so many people. Denny, you and I sat down and we talked about things. It only took, honest to God, folks, it only takes 45 minutes, but you got to put in all 45 minutes, and then he'll either tell you, that's not my thing, or he'll say, let's do it. I told him about a vision because I thought we could build 5 clinics in 10 years across the globe. And in 11 years, we have 9 countries, 45 clinics, and probably soon to be hundreds. Mission and promise made, promise kept. A research division. This building was empty, a bankrupt computer company, nobody in it. Now it has 300 young researchers from around the world working every day on mice and pigs and dogs and trying to find the cure for type 1 and a host of other diseases. We also said that we would find the cure for type 1 diabetes, and Dave Pierce will tell you that is not a fun moment every Monday morning when I ask how we're doing. So more and more were promised and more were envisioned. I included comments that day with Denny. I said, gosh, Denny, we could be like Mayo. We could be better than Mayo. And we could succeed in ways other people couldn't. And this is Denny Sanford. Remember, you said, I don't want to be just another Mayo. They only are about 3 hours east of here, so let's keep that quiet. But I don't want to be just another Mayo. And he said, success. I want significance, Kelp. I want significance. Later on that afternoon, we talked, and he said, Kelp, I hope there'll be a day when philanthropy will in some way inspire others to do what I've done. Maybe even bigger and better than I have. This event tonight, Denny, represents that other donors have stepped up. They've created this. There's still room, of course, for you to contribute. But I want to tell everyone that he did tonight, so that this thing is secure forever. And I didn't ask you, so don't call me a pickpocket anymore. Don't do that. Okay. Bottom line in my comments to you, sir, and to this audience is it is so important that we and I live up to your expectations, and we always will. So, this award, why we're doing it? For inspiration. That's why I hope everyone that is employed by Sanford has one understanding before they come here. If you don't want to come here to help sick people that are hurt, injured, infirm, and need you, go work for that other company, all right? Don't work for us. That's a pretty strong statement in a world of labor shortages. Get out of here. Go work for them. Come here because you want to make a difference and help somebody. And that's on the orientation videos, that's in my opening comments to 50,000 people. We're going to resolve sadness, we're going to stop suffering, and we're going to do this not trying to live forever. That's not our pursuit. But we do want to just live life without these sufferings. The people here tonight that spoke before the board have demonstrated they're going to provide people with life without suffering. Why are we doing this? Because we want to be a voice out here, a lonely, kind of quiet voice. We want to honor and loudly proclaim intolerance of the delay. They all have decades of anxiety and now gray hair trying to get through the bureaucratic, arduous process to get their drugs, their processes, their methods approved. In a small voice in the Dakotas, let's say no more. I mean, let's stop this. Not stop it, let's be safe always, but let's remember the end goal. People are suffering. And in the time that it takes to get things approved, people die. And I don't like it, and I know you don't either. We're going to embrace failure, actually, because to get these things done, you got to take risks, and sometimes there's failure. And Sanford will embrace you, whoever's listening to this. We will embrace you for trying. Louis Pasteur, Jonas Salk, and others were nighttime, dinner time conversations at my home with my brothers and my mom and dad, because he was a microbiologist. We had to wash our hands before dinner. That was tough. But the inspiration for me came while I actually worked here at Sanford. And Maurice Hillman, a Montana boy, found 40 vaccines. And what we know today that we don't suffer from, the measles, the mumps, hepatitis A and B, chicken pox, some pneumonias, the flu, and more compelling than anything for me was rubella, mothers who got German measles while pregnant. My dad, as mentioned, was a researcher and a teacher. In full disclosure, he suffered from retinitis pigmentosa, which is one of the things these wonderful women applied themselves to and cured. One of the aspects of retinitis pigmentosa. He lived on the elbow of my brothers and I because he ran into things for about 40 years. And he was a microbiologist, and he lived looking through microscopes. How could that be? To go blind when your passion was to look through microscopes. That was tough, but it was personal. And so part of why we're here tonight is it was personal to me, and I just want you to know that. This is part of the cure process tonight. The other personal thing is there's a man sitting at table 4 in a wheelchair. He was laying under a tree at age 12 when I was the first guy on the scene. my little brother. You're here tonight. It's simple, it's incredibly heavy and profound. It's honorable, it's courageous, and it's worth doing. So tonight, you're going to see videos of how the lame will walk. Dr. Brian Kaspar saw that happen. You'll see the blind see, and you will see that from Drs. High and Bennett. And you'll see the architect. And in closed session, Jim, that's what we called you. I hope it's okay. But I told him tonight, do you honor the people that string the Christmas lights in the Dakotas, or do you honor the person that invented the ladder? That was our dilemma today. So, that was an impossible vote. But a promise was made to everyone in this room and the world that we would make a vote and we would select a champion. And that promise was kept. Finally, to you donors, and I'll be done. This is a donor event. Everything else these families have done over the past, and many, many more, have given millions, and with Denny, billions, to help Sanford on its initiatives. But this is a donor event. You own it. It's going to be donor directed, donor specified, to live for decades and centuries. Familiar families again, Vanderwoody, Kirby, Everest, Beacom, and I'm so proud that Kravinoff gets to join your club. For the 100 and more years that this award is going to be around, your children, you donors, your children and then your grandchildren, and then their lineage will all sit in these Game of Thrones chairs and be the first to know in that room in the Sanford house who won every other year. I hope you take that with the same pride and mystery that I do. This is going to be incredible. There will be 20 chairs, and then that'll be it. There will never be more. Today there are 5. We honor you today. I want to tell you your voice is going to be heard, because I know you feel like I do. Enough is enough. Let's start curing things. Let's make a difference. The world will be better because of you. Thank you all for coming tonight. You honor me. You're my friends. Travel safe. I love you, and I'm done. So.
Thank you, Calby, and thank you, Denny, and all the donors and supporters that Calby mentioned. It's true in science and it's true in life. Collaborations matter, teams matter. All of our nominees tonight have managed to inspire large teams to band together and work on a common vision. That is also true for our next nominee, Dr. Brian Kaspar. Spinal muscular atrophy is the #1 genetic cause of death in infants. Dr. Kaspar is doing amazing work to stop it with gene therapy. As the founder of Avexis, a gene therapeutic company that was recently acquired by Novartis, Dr. Kaspar is close to FDA approval on a drug to stop spinal muscular atrophy. He's also pursuing treatments for other motor neuron diseases like ALS. Please meet Dr. Brian Kaspar.
You know, I think I was always fascinated by the concept of what doctors did and, you know, the power to heal. And in gene therapy, what we do is we clone the exact known gene, and we utilize a Trojan horse, so to speak. In our case, we utilize an adeno-associated virus. And this is really the molecular truck that delivers the gene, but all of the components that allows the cell to produce the protein of interest. So we sought after a project, and this was led by Dr. Kevin Faust, to really search for one of these viruses that may have had a unique capacity to cross the blood-brain barrier and target cells following the administration into the bloodstream. And lo and behold, in 2007, 2008, Kevin came into the laboratory showing really unprecedented data.
As a scientist, you're trained to be sort of skeptical, and what I saw was so outlandish, so far beyond what was capable at the time. Surely this was some sort of error.
Over 90% of the motor neurons were targeted in these very young treated animals following a one-time administration into the bloodstream. And the first disease that we thought about moving towards was spinal muscular atrophy. Spinal muscular atrophy is a motor neuron disease that affects infants. Not too many years ago, a family with a baby diagnosed with SMA type 1. The clinicians would look at the parents in the eyes and say, there's nothing that we can do other than to make your baby comfortable, take your baby home, love them, your baby is going to die. In 2018, simply put, that seems unacceptable. This was a game changer within the field. Seeing babies walk and talk, eat, laugh, run around rooms, things that we never thought we'd see in SMA. And this, I truly believe, it's the start of hopefully something bigger, meaning the next disease and the disease after that. We at Avexis take our focus of why we show up every single day is for the patient. And we took a very different approach because we were looking at the finish line. And the finish line is getting this drug approved globally and treating every single SMA patient who can benefit from the drug and be treated safely. That is our end goal, and until we get there, we will not rest. We are working on trying to expand from spinal muscular atrophy to other rare, life-threatening neurological diseases, like Lou Gehrig's disease and also Rett syndrome.
All girls are different. A lot of them are higher functioning. Kelly's a little bit more on the severe side because she never did walk or talk. It's hard. She's basically locked in a body that will not do anything for her. And so we have a lot of hope that hopefully Avexis is going to cure her. This is the first real hope we've ever had in years.
The news that these kinds of things can actually happen very, very soon, that's success. Progress in research is great, but success is actually things like this change for Kelly and girls that are listening.
Upon approval, the first person that I would call is my wife to say we did it.
I think we're just gonna cry. It's his team and it's hundreds of people behind it, and it's years of just work. When the drug gets approved, protocols of newborn screening are going to be changed. Textbooks are going to be rewritten. Lives are going to be touched and changed.
My first project in science was gene therapy for spinal muscular atrophy. It's the only thing I've ever done. I've met lots of families, and that we can potentially stop it. You know, that more families won't have to go through this. It's amazing. So we need to go beyond this. We need to go faster. We need to go farther. And these are the sort of traits that he's continued to model and exemplify.
There's risk in anything. Doing nothing is the easiest. Doing nothing is the safest. So I'm proud of the boldness and the risk taking, and I think that's how things change. Don't just do the simple experiment. Don't do the thing that seems always most obvious. Incremental science is important, but relish the potential to make a huge impact.
Please welcome back to the stage, Micah Aberson.
Thank you. We've mentioned all night how incredible these three finalists are, but as members of our family, and we've talked about how this event starts tonight, probably in its most humble beginnings, and that 2 years from now and 4 years from now and decades into the future, we'll continue to see this grow. And so I wanted to spend just a few minutes telling all of you, as sort of part of our extended family, how we get to the three finalists. That it's not just a random process by which we pull names out of a hat, but rather an incredibly rigorous exercise that starts with an algorithm, a machine learning exercise that goes out and has canvassed literally tens of thousands of scientific discoveries, agnostic of people. What are the areas of science and research that have seen the most significant changes in the past year? And that's what we started with. That's what we analyzed under the leadership and the direction of Dr. David Pierce, who leads our research function here at Sanford Health. He assembled a group, many of whom were at the Vatican. We've talked about that conference throughout the evening tonight. But we assembled a group of some 12 to 15 leading academics, researchers, scientists, clinicians from around the world. They came here on a couple of occasions. They met over at the Sanford House. And that algorithm that canvassed some 10,000 potential advancements within medicine narrowed the field down to 58. 58 different fields of study that have seen some significant advancement within the last 12 months. And from there, that group spent hours and hours and hours debating the most meaningful of those advancements so that they could eventually work its way down to the 3 finalists that we brought forward to the International Board. Our commitment to them, knowing that they're lay people, they're champions in their own right, we certainly have scientific and physicians that are a part of that group, but they're champions in other regards. They're champions on the golf course, they're champions in professional sport, they're champions in boardrooms, they're champions politically and clinically. But we wanted to have a diverse set of individuals that could help evaluate and understand who the potential winner of the award could be. And so the commitment was to bring them 3 finalists that they absolutely couldn't go wrong with. And I think we delivered on that. So thanks to Dr. Pierce and his team for all of that. I want to just bring you inside the room. So I mentioned at the outset tonight that we spent some, 8 or 10 hours together holed up in the International Boardroom. And I'll tell you, for me, on a personal level, it was a profound day. A day when we could hear from these people that embody the charisma and the moxie that we've held ourselves to with the description and the explanation of the Sanford Lorraine Cross Award. People that are actually finishing things. We heard, as you've seen in the videos, presentations, including from Dr. Wilson, who suffered a major setback. You're going to see it in the video here shortly, some 20 years ago, and could have thrown in the towel and said, I'm done with this. But he sat back and reflected, and he said, I need to make this right. I need to do something else. I need to do the next thing. And he persevered, and he powered through, and he overcame tremendous adversities. And is here tonight as the architect and the pioneer for so many things that have happened in gene therapy. We heard an incredible story, as you just saw in the video, from Dr. Kaspar, who showed us videos earlier today of little kids that otherwise, by the time they turn 2 with floppy baby syndrome, 92% of them have a death sentence. 92% of them by the time they turn 2. I woke up this morning, this is what I love about this, is that we all can relate in some way, shape, or form to what these people are doing. I'm the father of 2 girls, my wife and I. The 2-year-old, I don't know how, ended up in our bed somehow this morning, but I woke up to her tapping on my forehead and smiling at me, and I can't imagine being that dad that has to deal with that. But the work that Dr. Kaspar is doing is so inspirational, and it makes you just step back and say, yeah, I want to give $1 million to this. I want to be a part of this to take us to the next level with the work that he and his team are doing. But he had to overcome people that walked into his office and say, you can't do this. It's too scary. You're not going to be able to succeed. And his response was, it's 2018. It's 2018. It is inconceivable to me to accept that a daughter would outlive their father. Unbelievable stories. And then Dr. Bennett and Dr. High and the work that you saw them doing already in the videos to cure blindness, to literally cure blindness. We saw a couple of videos during the presentation today that were just remarkable. There's a little girl, maybe 6 years old, running around outside at dusk, yelling out, I can see in the dark. I can see in the dark, with so much joy and enthusiasm in life. Or a little boy who is maybe 10 years old, out riding his bike for the first time ever. I can ride a bike. I can be outside. I can ride a bike. Just unbelievable stories. And both Dr. Bennett and Dr. Hyde said during their presentation and again in the video that it takes more than 2 people, that we're all leaders, that we all come together in this regard and in this effort to do something that's bigger than ourselves. And that's where our donors come in to this equation. Kelby mentioned it just a minute ago, but we are just so thankful to a group of philanthropists who had a little reception across the street earlier and had a chance to visit with the International Board. And as I said to them there, it's a group of people that have been so intimate to Sanford Health that they've already etched their place in history. The history of this organization and many of the initiatives that Sanford has undertaken under their leadership. But their gifts to the Sanford Lorraine Cross Award and the chairs that are now bestowed to their names and will sit inside the Legacy Hall every time this award is given, etch their name in the future of Sanford Health forever. And so I want to just take a moment and recognize each of them specifically. I'd like them to stand. We'll show a light on their table. We'll start Miles and Lisa Beacom. And let's pause for applause after everyone. Tom and Barb Everston family. Dan and Arlene Kirby and family. Kelby and Heidi Kramenoff and their family. And Debbie Vanderwoody and family in honor of John. And finally, Kelby mentioned it a minute ago, Denny asked us when we were next door what our goal was from a fundraising standpoint. We told him we wanted to get to $20 million to be able to fund this in perpetuity forever. He said, congratulations on the 5. They are unbelievably inspiring. I love these people. I love what they've done. I love their philanthropy and everything that they've demonstrated. I'd like to help you get your next 5. And so I will commit $5 million to match numbers 6 through 10. So Denny, as always, unbelievable. Thank you. Our goal from here is to tell the story, to turn this into the humble beginnings of the Sanford Lorraine Cross Award, to get to a point where in 2 years and 4 years and 6 and 10, that we have 20 donors that are in that room across the street from all over the country, that we're able to tell the story through our finalists, through the science and academic and medical world, to help bring more people to this table that share our values and share our vision for getting things done. So in that regard, we could use your help. Help us tell the story. Leave this room and push it out. Tell people about it. I want this night to be the night that people look back tomorrow morning or in a year or in 2 years and say, did you hear what happened in South Dakota last night? Did you hear what happened at Sanford Health? So with that, I say thank you. Congratulations to our finalists and enjoy the evening.
Thank you, Micah, and thank you for the reminder that we can all do our part to help improve the human condition. And now our final Sanford Lorraine Cross Award nominee. Dr. James Wilson has worked in gene therapy for 3 decades, but like many innovators and many hedgehogs, he believes that things are just getting started. His work in developing gene transfer vectors has paved the way for researchers around the world to develop gene therapy cures. Please meet Dr. Jim Wilson.
There are times in one's career that define who you are. I studied the basis for this disease, Angelman Syndrome, and got to know many of the children who were affected by this. And there was one young man who I got to know very well, and it turned out during one of his stays with us in Ann Arbor, identified the specific mutation that caused this disease. It was incredible. When I met his mother, I, with incredible excitement, shared with her the story and that we found the mutation that caused his disease. And she looked at me and she asked, how is this going to help my son? And at that time I was punched in the stomach. And it struck me that, in fact, this incredible science wasn't going to help him. From that moment, I really tried to develop a concept around how to not only treat him, but treat others that have diseases like him. And that was in the very early days when there was just early whispers of gene therapy. And I said, that's it.
When I first met him, he told me about his aspirations and his goals and his plan to cure rare diseases in children.
Gene therapy is to introduce the normal version of that gene into your cells to treat the disease at its root. But in order to achieve that, we need to technically develop approaches that just weren't available before. There have been attempts over the years to try different approaches. But the one that seems to work the best, and the one on which the entire field has been based on, is the concept of using a virus. That sounds crazy. Why would you give someone a virus? Basically, what I've been trying to do for 3 decades is to engineer viruses so that they don't cause disease, but using the power of a virus that very effectively and efficiently can seek out our cells, but in this approach for gene therapy, to deliver a therapeutic payload. Right at the turn of the century, the support and enthusiasm for gene therapy went to an all-time high to an all-time low. But the way that I operate is I sort of don't look back. So when I saw that, all I knew was we had to move forward. We had to move forward fast. We had to work harder, and that's what we did. We refocused our efforts around the turn of the century towards vector discovery because we did not believe that the technology that was available was sufficient for gene therapy to realize its potential. We discovered this family of AAVs, we tested them in model systems, and I knew from the first experiment this was a game changer. And I was used to seeing very spotty, limited gene transfer with the old technology that's depicted in this sort of graphic representation of speckles of blue. Each speckle is a cell that's been corrected. And then we injected our AAV8, it was all blue. And I knew at the time, with that one experiment, with that one slide in that moment, that we probably have something now that's going to make a difference.
Quincy, our 4-year-old, has a very rare neurogenetic disorder called Angelman Syndrome. Coordination is really hard for kids with Angelman Syndrome. And because of that, she has a lot she wants to say. And when you ask her to talk, she opens her mouth and tries to talk, but she can't. Like she wants a hug, or she's hungry, or she's thirsty, or she's tired. When you have a kid who has so much that they want to say, and it's so hard for them to let that out, all you want to do is provide for them to make that easier. With activating a gene or replacing a gene that she's missing, we can give her all of that back.
You know, Allison just struck me as someone who I wanted to work with. It was personal. She's just so positive, smart, supportive, relentless.
The fact that he was willing to take this on as one of his small handful of disorders meant the world to me. It meant that this was bigger than me and that I can trust somebody to help her.
We came into the world of rare diseases a little over 20 years ago when our then 15-month-old daughter, Megan, was diagnosed with Pompe disease. You're starting to see a convergence of people wearing a lot of hats. So for me, it became a hat, one hat was as a dad. And then very quickly, when we realized this was a race against time, I had to become an entrepreneur. And I came into the field to start a biotech company focused on rare disease medicines. Jim Wilson is thinking about how do you deliver these gene therapies to everybody in the world. And I think that has enormous potential to change the course of human health for literally hundreds of millions of people.
I have never seen him more excited or more motivated in the work that he's doing today. He's able to focus more on finding that light at the end of the tunnel.
When I think about my career and think about the mark I'm going to leave, it was based on that moment when I was a graduate student. That's the drive. And until we're done, we're not done.
He has my motto, things are either possible or impossible, and there's no in between. And he realizes it's possible, and he's not going to stop until he is successful.
After 35 years, he has never backed down. He has never given up. It has been challenging for him, but he takes those challenges and he works even harder to move forward.
I hope that people will remember me as Johnny Appleseed. that I'm the guy that planted the seed with technology and science that then have led to cures and treatments for patients with many different kinds of diseases. At the core, I'm a contrarian, and I do not accept dogma or traditional wisdom. I always challenge it. That sort of forces me then to brave new territory, to think out of the box, so to speak. And I think kind of like it.
Please welcome Chair of the Sanford International Board, member of the Sanford Board of Trustees, and two-time U.S. Open champion, Andy North.
Thank you. As you've seen through our 3 videos, what an unbelievable task we had at hand today. Micah mentioned that we spent a long, long day discussing. As you can see, we got very emotional at times, but I gotta thank Dr. David Pierce for delivering us an absolute grand slam that no matter who we picked, it was gonna be a great winner. So thank you, David. Thank you to our 3 amazing nominees. And as chair of the Sanford International Board, it's my privilege to be involved with this award from the beginning. And to meet these nominees we're honoring here tonight. Today was an amazing day that I'll never forget. There were some tears in there today. There was a lot of laughter. There was some amazing hope. But all in all, it was just one of those days that will be in my brain forever. To recap sort of how we went through this process today, each nominee met with the board for interviews, presenting their work and engaging amazing conversations with our board members. After meeting all nominees, the board signaled by the ceremonial blue smoke. I hope someone got to see that because there's a lot of work put in to get blue smoke coming out of the Sanford House. 50 years from now, a lot of people will be watching blue smoke, trust me. It's also my honor to announce the inaugural winner of the Sanford Lorraine Cross Award. I don't have to tell you the contributions you've seen from each of these stories, that they're all winners. But even more, we are all winners. As the human race, people who will benefit from these treatments, for the generations to come that will forever be changed by their work. When one of these nominees wins the Sanford Lorraine Cross Award, we all will win. I'd like to bring back Kelby and Micah, please. So congratulations to all. Now I get the honor to actually tell you the winner. I've always wanted to do the Academy Awards or the ESPYs, but no one ever invited me. So this is pretty good. I do have a card. They didn't trust me to actually remember something. So the 2018 winner of the $1 million Sanford Lorraine Cross Award, decided earlier today by the Sanford International Board, is Doctors Gene Bennett and Doctors Katherine.
It is certainly an honor to receive this award in the company of such impressive co-nominees. I want to thank my research partner, Gene Bennett. Her deep understanding of the disease and her undying commitment to this were keys to making it through. For all of us who work in gene therapy, the promise of the Human Genome Project had been that one day we would be able to turn genes into medicines for people born with serious inherited diseases. But as you heard today, it took a tremendous amount of work in the laboratory and in clinical investigation to really reach the promise of a world where no life is limited by genetic disease. And Luxturna was an important milestone because it was the first gene therapy product licensed for a genetic disease. But more than that, we hope that it will be a catalyst for many more of these. And so I want to express my great thanks to the Sanford International Board and to the Sanford Health System for creating an award that recognizes medical innovation. There were many days, as you heard, when we were discouraged and weren't sure that we would make it across the finish line. And so it's so wonderful for an award to be given for people who work to make it across the finish line. So, and I would just like to ditto everything that Kathy just said. I also want to acknowledge that both Jim Wilson and Brian Kaspar have been heroes of mine and collaborators, long time, and inspirational, and I am honored to, I have been honored to go through this nomination process with them, and of course with Kathy High. I would like to thank the Sanford group myself as well. This has been an incredible experience, and you are setting a standard that is just amazing. I also would like to acknowledge all of our incredible collaborators. Of course, this has been an incredible team effort, and in particular, my husband, Albert McGuire, who was the really brave person who injected the first person with a gene therapy reagent in the eye in the United States, and did every first new injection, first child, first re-administration, etc. Without him, this would have been impossible. And of course, the incredible team we worked with, and most especially the patients, who are the real pioneers. Thank you very much.
Congratulations again to Dr. Bennett and Dr. High, and a recognition to Dr. Wilson and Dr. Kaspar. A round of applause. My wife and I were in Paris this past week celebrating a 20th wedding anniversary, and we stopped by the beautiful cathedral, the Notre Dame Cathedral. And as I marveled at the cathedral, I learned that it took 200 years to build a cathedral. 200 years. And a thought occurred to me as I stood before the cathedral, marveling at its beauty. The people who first started building the cathedral, why did they do it? They were never going to see it completed. They were never going to see it finished. Why did generation after generation of people labor on something that they would never see finished themselves? And of course, the answer is human beings have a remarkable quality. We care not just about the people who are within arm's length of us, but we can care about people who live very different lives in different countries, perhaps even people who are not yet born. The real winners tonight are not our brilliant scientists. The real winners tonight are the patients whose lives they will improve, the children whose lives they will save, the people whose sight they will restore. The majority of those people are not here tonight. Many of them will never see Sioux Falls. Most of them are not even born. But if you listen carefully, you can hear their applause, their deafening applause, come across the centuries, their gratitude. As we draw this evening to a close, I want to point to the remarkable human qualities that have brought us together. Certainly brilliance, insight, certainly also compassion and generosity. But I think most of all, leadership and courage. Leadership and courage in science lead to innovations and they lead to breakthroughs. But they also do something much more important. They inspire other people to step forward, other people to act. The visionaries that I mentioned earlier, Jobs and Mandela and Churchill, one of the great gifts they had is they inspired tens of thousands of other people to step forward and realize their full potential. There's an old saying, it's better to have an army of sheep led by a lion than an army of lions led by a sheep. Leadership changes the behavior of people around the person who's the leader. Courage, in many ways, is infectious. And that's vital because the real obstacles we face, not just in science, but in life, lie not just in the complexity of the questions we are dealing with, but in obstacles that are psychological, obstacles that lie within ourselves. Doubt and worry, the fear of blame, the fear of regret. Dr. Bennett and Dr. High and the other Sanford Lorraine Cross Award nominees remind us most of all to be brave, to take risks, to dream. They remind us to pursue our dreams. We can all be part of something bigger than ourselves. T. Danny Sanford says his motto is to aspire to inspire before you expire. To aspire to inspire before you expire. I hope tonight has been a source of inspiration for you. I hope it makes you ask what you can do to take the gifts that you have been given and find ways to pay it forward. Thank you. Good night.